Hey everybody, this is Ray Flip, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Welcome you back once again to our weekly recap review of Freeform Siren. We're going to be taking a look at the fourth episode of this season, On the Road. And again, I just want to say, 4 for 4. I really like now the first 4 episodes of this season. They're giving me a good sense of the mythology. I'm getting a good sense of the characters. There's no characters that are annoying me, which I consider always a major plus. And there are little mysteries that they're starting to build upon. There's one thing that they got to a resolution to that I wasn't expecting, which was a pleasant surprise. But again, they're building the mysteries along. So again, very impressed. Really liked it 4 for 4. On the Road was a very strong episode. But again, I'm going to go to my, as you guys know, in the interest of full disclosure, my nice little notepad to make sure that I'm covering everything and we haven't missed anything. We pick up this episode, I guess you could say, loosely following up on how last episode ominously ended, where we realized that our mermaid in the tank has been playing possum. Mermaid playing possum. That's just, I feel there's a joke somewhere there, but I'm just not going to go with it. So we see that they're continuing to doing the DNA testing and all that fun stuff, and then we cut to Chris. And Chris is looped and kind of out of it because, and I want to say, it's very interesting because I'm curious to see what has been done to him in the time that he's been at the military complex. That's something they can really play with down the road. I mean, you consider what kind of DNA testing they were doing. You know, let's not assume that DNA testing was only being done to mermaids and only being done to animals. Just going to put that out there. But it's very interesting that we see Chris, who's kind of, sort of, is a nice way to put it, out of it, and all of a sudden he starts hearing commotion. He starts hearing screaming, gunshots, explosions, smashes, everything like that. And then all of a sudden he runs into this mysterious woman who he ends up escaping with. Now, gee, I don't think any of us were really shocked at who the mysterious woman is. Spoiler, it's our mermaid. Just going to surprise everybody with that right from the very start, who's gotten herself into kind of a nurse's uniform and nurse's outfit and is hightailing it out there with Chris. Very interesting juxtaposition that we also cut to Xander and Calvin, who are pretty much staking out the nurse's home. Wondering if those two things have anything to do with one another. Go to my map pad here. What I'm liking really about the dynamic between Maddie, Ben, and Rin is the idea of we're not getting into jealousy little triangle things or stuff like that. Both of them seem to be having a really and strong connection to Rin and having her around and what she represents. And I really, really like that. Again, I'm a big believer and a big supporter of Ben and Maddie. Rin, I think there's something that can be done, but I just, again, don't want them to go down the whole love triangle route and then Maddie ends up acting out of character and does something to hurt Rin. And I don't want them to go that route because I really like seeing the dynamic that they have going on. What I also thought was very interesting, two things I took away from the scene, was just the fact that the scaliness and everything that is just been hitting Rin just seems to be continuing on, and the tracker that they have Rin set up with, which is going to come into play very importantly towards the end of the episode. And let's not forget that we also have, and I call him Sheriff Dale just because I don't know why. For some reason, it reminds me of Scream and think of Deputy Dewey. I'm not trying to insult the character in any way. It just gets me to think like that. And we know the sheriff is going to be running into a confrontation with his daughter pretty much soon, because it's just the daughter-father conflict between, you know, the justice and the right system and the laws of science and laws of man. You know that's just going to come into play. It doesn't help when the sheriff gets word that, oh, by the way, you know this mysterious woman you're looking for who may or may not be throwing people through windshields and killing them, and also, when not doing that, taking people's laundry off the lines? Yeah, that woman was with your daughter. So you would understand why that kind of would probably necessitate a conversation later on down the road. But the big dun-dun-dun moment I have to say from the episode was, again, now we have Chris and Mermaid, who is going by the name Donna. She's going by the name Donna because Donna was the name of the nurse that she killed at the government complex to get her outfit. And what's the name of the person that Xander and Calvin are scoping out? The one they've been getting contacts from? Donna. So now we see this right here. Part of our heroes are looking for somebody they don't know is dead, and one of our heroes is with somebody who they don't know is actually a mermaid impersonating a dead person who they happen to kill. Big, shocking, dun-dun-dun moment. One of those like, oh, well, that's getting kind of interesting. I kind of like where that's going in that regards. Decker, the scientist guy, we see that he's starting to survey the damage. He finds, and that's where we get our confirmation, he finds Donna's body. We also get some leftover returning to Ash remnants from the mermaid also. So again, I gotta say, this idea of how they're presenting the mermaids, not really something you get to see a lot in movies or television. Again, I give the show a lot of credit. They're showing these to be very feral creatures on a variety of levels. We see the interaction that Decker ends up having with Admiral Harrison, who, no surprise here, the Admiral's like, you're getting a little too close to your subjects. That's not what you're here for. And of course, their biggest fear being the idea of mermaids being and living and functioning within the world of humans. But you get the impression that maybe that kind of has happened before, and that's going to be something I want to get to in a second. Because we have Rin, and of course Ben and Maddie can't keep a watch on her 24/7, so who are you going to have Rin stay with? Of course, Helen. She's this show's Giles. She's the elder stateswoman. Of course you're going to have her stay there. Now, one thing I'm going to say is, we get the impression there's a lot more going with Helen. I don't think that's a big surprise or a big shock. However, I want to throw out my 10-cent theory. My 10-cent theory about Helen is that, I think some people are going really easy for the whole Helen might be a mermaid or something like that. I don't know if that's necessarily the route we're going to go with that regards. I'm not sure. In fact, you know what? Let me say this. I'm going to say that based on the talk about her autoimmune system and the fact of the scar on her legs, I'm feeling Helen might be some descendant of a mermaid human breeding. I mean, we go back to the person who started up the whole town in the first place, and the ramifications from that. Again, let's not forget the town's history. I think they keep creeping that in there, and I think that's a background story that's going to become very important. So I think Helen's connection on some levels, that's going to be my call. My prediction right now is that Helen is some kind of Ancestry.com, for some reason I'm thinking about that. I guess in the lineage of a human mermaid setup. That's the route I'm going to go, where I think that's where her fascination and her knowledge base about the town really is. And I also get this feeling, again, like I've been fearing all along, that there's just we're kind of building to something. I'm not sure what, but I don't think it's to anything good, especially because, again, you've got industry and government involved. Yeah, that's not going to go pretty. That's not going to go pretty by any stretch of the imagination. What the other things I want to cover here also is that we see after Rin is being taken care of, as we go along, we see that our heroes, Calvin, Xander, Maddie, and Ben, go to check out Donna's house, and Donna never returns, because we know why, but they do see a government sweep, which is, you're going to figure it's standard government shady practice. Whenever somebody dies, it's like, let's go through, let's make sure they don't have anything incriminating, let's just kind of clean sweep their house. So they pretty much have a pretty good idea what's going to be going on, and again, that there's some shady major stuff that's taking place. What I thought was very interesting is that they eventually get contacted by Chris, and they end up meeting with Chris, but Chris is sick and in really bad shape. And again, I think a lot of it may have to do with what he's been through. I think a lot of it may also have to do with the fact of, again, the whatever took place in that military complex. And I think we're going to be getting some answers to that very, very soon. But in the short term, Xander basically makes sure Chris gets to the clinic. And meanwhile, and this is what really impressed and surprised me the most, is what we get essentially the reunion between Ren and, for lack of a better phrase, Donna. And it's very interesting, it's very sweet, it's very nice, and they essentially disappear into the waters together. So again, it's not something I thought was going to stretch out like the entire series run, but we're only 4 episodes in, and they kind of gave us a mini resolution to that storyline, which again, I think makes it very interesting as to where this series could go moving forward. I mean, you could sneak in some standalone episodes, you could build up the mythology episodes. I think we're going to start learning a lot more about what's going on in the mermaid side of things. But all in all, again, I would just say, just a good quality episode. People were acting smart. They didn't act stupid. Even when there were moments where you're like, okay, whatever. You never got a sense that they were belittling the characters throughout. And I love the progression we've seen in the characters over these 4 episodes. I'm intrigued. I'm interested in the episode. It keeps me wanting to tune in.